Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, special edition of the Terrible Podcast. I am Alex Kozora. He is Dave Bryan, as always, for Tuesday, August 3rd, halfway through training camp. If you can believe it, practice 6 of 12 open to the public, and the last practice the Steelers will have in the public view, at least before they play Thursday's Hall of Fame game against Dallas, and then everyone will stop caring about my training camp tweets, and we'll talk about preseason.
They don't matter anyway. Too much damn info. Tone it down. Also, I think I'm going to you're giving out wrong info already. Isn't there 13 practices or no?
Oh, yeah, it is 13, right? Because they added the 13.
Oh, man, what am I going to do?
You know what? I'm done. I did my best.
What am I going to do? You know what? I've been having some bones I want to pick with you.
You play for the Colts?
Man,
injuries?
Oh, man, what a miserable start of camp they're having. All right, I'm sorry to interrupt that long thought out pre-production intro. Carry on, sir.
And again, I want to thank our sponsor at the top here, touringplans.com, and Len Testa in particular. If you're planning a trip to Disney, be sure to check out the fine people at touringplans.com, and they will help you out. I imagine booking a trip to Disney is as crazy as ever, so that's the people that you want to contact and get things set up. All right, Dave, let's get to it.
Well, I went over there and looked up their updated website and all as well, too. Very easy to get around and all like that. And once again, Len's been a sponsor of ours, or really yours, I guess, technically, sponsoring the training camp reports for some time. So if you are a listener to this podcast, and if you value the information that you get from Alex and hopefully a little bit from me, hop on over and visit Len Testa and his website, and check him out on Twitter as well too.
Absolutely, fully endorse what those guys do, and yeah, their site is incredibly user friendly. All right, Dave, let's get to the housekeeping of the day. And I spotted a number 40 in white on offense before practice. Knew a roster move was coming, and the team shortly thereafter tweeted out details. The team assigned running back Tony Brooks-James to give themselves some depth at running back with Benny Snell injured. He was not at practice today. The team, in a corresponding move, released off-ball linebacker Jarvis Miller. And so Brooks-James, a familiar name, played with the Steelers briefly back in 2019, a couple carries or two, so he's back in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Eagle Eye Alex strikes again, right? I don't know what jumped out at you, but obviously Benny Snell dealing with whatever. I don't think we still don't know. In fact, I know we don't know what the nature of the injury is. Mike Tomlin, suggested he might update, the severity or non-severity of it. Well, that didn't happen during his noon press conference on Tuesday there, so we're kind of left in the dark there. Obviously, they didn't put him on injured reserve, so I guess there's somewhat. I'm gonna read that as a positive. I'm gonna play glass half full guy today, and at least go that route with it. Tony Brooks, James, as you mentioned, a little, couple carries, was on the 53-man roster for three games or something in 2019. I think he got his hands on a couple of kicks or something like that. So. Might be a guy you see late in that game against Dallas now on short notice and all. So definitely we'll see how bad maybe Anthony McFarland might be banged up right now. And obviously Benny Snell probably not going to play in that contest now. So you got Balaj, you got Trey Edmonds, Najee. We'll see. Going to be interesting to parse some of those comments out with you about Mike Tomlin and the playing time. Or maybe not playing time. Najee will get Thursday night against the Cowboys there. So what else do you have for us from a health perspective?
Yeah, quick note on Brooks-James. I will remember him for being the guy who got the carry to end the game after the whole Mason Rudolph, Myles Garrett fight. He was the guy that got the carry to close that game out. So that's how I will always remember Tony Brooks-James. The injury report, though, not practicing at all today, was offensive guard Kevin Dotson. Again, in pads, but did very, very little, if anything, today. Tight end Eric Ebron, he was catching passes on the side later in practice, so I think he'll probably be back for Saturday. wide receiver Cody White. He's making progress with that hamstring. Hopefully he can come back this weekend or early next week. Again, Benny Snell not on the field today. TJ Watt, Stephon Tua did some stuff in individual sessions, but they were not in pads today, and they didn't do anything beyond that. Tight end Zach Gentry, he's got a sleeve on his left knee. He had that for the last couple of days, so I don't know if that was something that's been bothering him or not, but he did not go in any capacity. No Chaz Green as an offensive tackle, no Ray McLeod at wide receiver. And then during practice, and I'm always bad with some of the in-practice injuries because I'm always looking at something else, but I think Freiermuth got dinged and McFarland got dinged too.
That's kind of my understanding there. I don't know. So didn't Freiermuth have some ice bag or something on his shoulder or something like that? It wasn't at the was that the report, or did I dream that?
I think there was something with the shoulder, but I'm not. I didn't see it. I don't know when exactly it happened. Again, the trainer's table is on the opposite side for me, so I'm not great at sometimes catching some of that stuff unless a guy is seriously injured and is laying on the field. But yeah, I think that was the report. Freiermuth fell to the ground and hurt his shoulder, and I'm not even sure what the issue is with McFarland.
And I'm trying to find out. Freiermuth was looks like sidelines along with trainer John Norwood had looks like maybe a shoulder with him, and maybe it was McFarland that had the ice on him or whatnot.
Okay.
But anyway, we'll have to play it by ear. Obviously, the team had to try to make it through today's practice before Mike Tomlin wouldn't comment heavily on who's in or who's out when it comes to Thursday night there. Common sense, and Mike Tomlin said some of the veteran guys you're probably not going to see in that game. He named off guys like Cameron Hayward, Joe Hayden, Ben Roethlisberger obviously isn't going to play. I think we will all be surprised if, I don't know, Minka plays in that game. Obviously Tuitt and Watt probably not, or not probably, are not going to play in that game. Do you really need to see Tyson Alu? Have you been setting your sights on Tyson Alu to play in that game? I know how I haven't. I don't think there's any need in that personally. Right. And what about a guy like Devin Bush? I mean, yeah, he's working in practice. Do you really need to see him in preseason game number one? Same goes for guys like, on the other side of the ball, like Zach Banner. And I think Kevin Colbert said in an interview tonight, Chooks is nicked up. He wouldn't reveal the severity of it, but, and you mentioned Dodson. So there's probably going to, even though there's no official inactive list for preseason games, there's probably going to be, a good dozen inactive players for that game.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would not play Bush. I would not play Banner. I know they read on the field in Canton, but I just do not trust it. I would not play those guys coming off the ACL. I wouldn't play Melvin Ingram, wouldn't play any of those type of guys. Probably wouldn't even play Cam Sutton. I would just start Justin Lane and James Pierre and wouldn't play Edmonds, Terrell at least. I'd play Trey, of course, and wouldn't play Minka. So, yeah, basically any sort of key established starter, they're not going to play this game.
Do you want to parse some comments about Tomlin and Najee or no?
I think we could save that for tomorrow.
Okay, we'll tease it.
Yeah, but quick answer is I think Harris. It sounded to me like Harris is going to play in some capacity Thursday.
I think I think there's a chance of that, but I would like to parse this out with you in the morning, so we'll tease that.
All right. We will have a 10 o'clock parsing. I will schedule that in my calendar. All right, Dave, let's talk about practice. What's that?
You know me, I like to dig way too. I'll dust off. I'll get my new 2021 tinfoil hat out here.
Yeah, you like to read details of stuff? What? That's not like you.
Yeah, that's like you and your detailed stats. Stop it.
You think you know a guy. All right, let's talk about practice today.
Math boy. All right,
math
go ahead.
nerd. To you.
Math nerd. All right.
Steelers 2-minute drill. Dwayne Haskins led his group down for a 67-yard drive, resulting in a 25-yard touchdown to Anthony Johnson. Haskins 5 of 7 on that drive. He's just been really efficient in those situations. And yes, quarterbacks can't get hit, and it's not a tackling session, so receivers can kind of get more yak than what they probably actually could, including on Johnson's touchdown. Ran the last 5 yards in, but Haskins has been really methodical and impressive, and has been successful, obviously, most importantly, in those situations. And Tomlin talked up Haskins, and I think the phrase was going by leaps and bounds, and you continue to see him do well in all situational football.
Are we going which way are we going here? Are we just talking about the sessions first, or quarterbacks, or what?
Yeah, just quarterback in general today. But to me, the focus was Haskins in that 2-minute drill.
All right, and piggybacking on that, Mike Tomlin said the rotation. I don't think you clutched your pearls or anything when he said it, Alex. But Mason Rudolph will start the preseason game against Dallas. He'll be followed by Dwayne Haskins. I think there's a little parsing in there as well too. He wants Haskins to finish the first half. I think a lot of people are under the assumption that will be it for him, and then Dobbs will play the entire second half. I'm not so sure that's the way it's going to go. In fact, I'm hoping that Haskins not only plays good part of that first half, and then obviously gets himself into a 2-minute situation, which is one of the key reasons why Mike Tomlin wants him to be second into the game, and later at some point in that first half, so he can experience that 2-minute session. I'm hoping for him to have to go into the locker room and come out, and then maybe get a couple of possessions that way before turning it over to Dobbs. So the rotation will be Rudolph, Haskins, and Dobbs, and I think there's probably a little bit of mystery there as to how far Haskins will play and whether or not he'll play into the second half or not. I hope he does, like I've stated, and my terrible take was on Tuesday was about Haskins, and man, they sure need him to play the most snaps during the preseason, I think, at the quarterback position, so they can get the longest look at him.
I'm with you. Yeah. And I'm sure none of that's set in stone because, if Haskins gets a 2-minute situation, that may, cause him to bow out earlier than if he doesn't get that. So I think it's kind of up in the air based on how the game goes. But for me, just roughly looking at it, I would play Rudolph the first 2 series. I give Haskins to sit the rest of the half and the whole third quarter, and I'll give Dobbs the fourth quarter. And that kind of seems to mesh based on the way they've gotten reps so far in practice. I would be very surprised if Dobbs got an entire half to himself.
Has it just become the Dwayne Haskins camp at quarterback there? In other words, how much can he progress, or is it just the whole quarterback position now just basically the evaluation of Haskins? Is that that's what it feels like?
Right. Yeah, it sort of is. I mean, obviously, he's the most intriguing guy. He's the new guy, the shiny new toy that's parked in the garage for Pittsburgh. So, I want to see how things translate to in-game situations. I've said this for a while now. I'm sure Haskins has always looked good in practice, and we'll see how it carries over when there's pressure and, you can actually get hit, unlike in a practice setting. So, I think Rudolph was fine today. Dobbs threw an interception on his 2-minute drill when it sailed over Marcus Ball and was picked off by Donovan Steiner. So that session ended 2 plays into end practice today. So not a good note for Dobbs to go out on. But obviously the intrigue right now and the focus is on Haskins, again, not only for the short term, but is there any long-term potential in future with this guy?
Does it feel like it feels like Thursday night has become a no-win situation for Mason Rudolph, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, I get what your point is. If he plays well, they're going to say, well, he's a more veteran guy against backups and rookies and stuff like that. And if he doesn't play well, then of course everyone's going to kill him. But in that situation, a no win, that just play well, and people will say whatever they want to say then. Right,
but I mean, as we've said now for the last 2 weeks, the expectation really, I think, with all 3 of those quarterbacks is as long as the offensive line and wide receivers don't kill them, I mean, they all should play well. The way I view it, because look, they're going to be playing against some second and third team defensive players most of the night, and I snuck a peek at what's going on with Dallas today, and they weren't in pads today. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but just looking at their roster overall, you obviously know more about the Steelers roster than you do their roster, but I mean, I think the expectation should be high once again, like I said, for all 3 of these quarterbacks.
Sure.
And what happens if Haskins comes out and doesn't have a good showing? Is it same old Haskins?
I mean,
what's the narrative?
Yeah, again, I don't focus too much on that. I'll just base it off of his actual play. But yeah, the idea is, he's graduated to this step of playing well in practice. Can he take it to that next step and do it inside a stadium? And that'll be the big litmus test for him. And so I think there's obviously a lot riding on this game and the whole preseason for Dwayne Haskins.
You know what's going to happen is they're going to be behind, and Dobbs is going to be the one that has one of those Carolina games.
Right. Where he just runs for like 70 yards.
Yeah, and then throws, a couple late touchdowns from the 2 or whatever. and then Dobbs powers Steelers to come from behind, win, and then all of a sudden the whole quarterback narrative gets shook up.
Right. Right, yeah, let me get that in drafts actually right now. Get a head start on that headline. Yeah, Dobbs has always looked good in the preseason, partially because he has that mobility. And Tomlin's talked about how that's a unique and effective trait in those situations because the line's probably not going to protect well. This line's probably definitely not going to protect well in the fourth quarter of a Hall of Fame game. So things are likely to break down, and Dobbs will have to create. And obviously his legs are an asset. He's the most mobile quarterback in that room by far. So, yeah, I think he'll probably play well in this one.
All right. That's it for the call. You just mentioned Anthony Johnson. I want to make sure we talk about him when we get to the wide receivers.
Okay, good deal. Let's go to the running backs now. Just in general, talk about today's practice. I was wrong. I figured today would be more lower key. They'd probably be in shells, pretty calm practice heading into the game on Thursday. Nope, they were in pads, full contact. I mean, it was pretty physical today. So Mike Tomlin and the Steelers have notoriously had some of the most physical camps in football, and that has continued on to this season. Let's talk about running backs, though, and it was the Derek Watt show today, Dave. Could a fullback really be involved in this offense? 2 catches and 73 yards and nearly had a touchdown. I think he got taken down at the half-yard line by Trey Norwood. Had a really good one-handed snag on that first catch, a 46-yard play, a little corner out that took him down the right sideline. So Derek Watt has been a much bigger presence in this offense the last couple of days of practice.
All right, so what you're telling me, we're going to see a lot of pony this year. We're going to see a lot of 22 personnel with a running back and a fullback and 2 tight ends on the field. And, right? I mean, that's what's going to happen this year, right?
Yeah, 1970s receivers in 3-point stances. I mean, that's what they're going to do. But no, I mean, we'll definitely see. I mean, obviously, Watt just being healthy is a benefit. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see more of that this year than last year.
Look, we spent a little bit of time on Watt, I think, yesterday. You got to get 50 offensive snaps out of him is way too low. I do think a lot of his snaps, though, will be predicated on whether or not they're wanting to be able to run the football later in games, or if they have the ability, if games dictate them be able to do it. Now, on the flip side, whenever he is in the game, you have to have the ability to use him as an offensive weapon, just to keep those linebackers honest, and somebody have to follow him out if he goes out, type of thing. If not, then you bust him for the 30-yard, 40-yard reception. Okay, I think realistic, 15 targets maybe on the high side for Watt during the season. That sounds
probably about
right.
10. I mean, we're semantics, but I'd put him around 10.
10 to 15. That sounds about right. He had 0 regular season touches last year and 2 unforgettable, unfortunately, touches against the Browns, right, in the playoffs.
Yep, the fullback dives.
That's got to be different. You can get him. You should be able to get him 10 touches, though, right?
Yeah, in terms of the targets, if he gets 10 targets, about 6 of them will be in the right flat on boots. 3 of them will be like wheel routes, and another will come on some weird scramble drill. Like, that'll be his distribution of targets this year.
And a fullback dive and a partridge in a pear tree or something like that.
Something like that.
But I mean, look, I think there's going to be interesting instances too where you want him as a lead fullback in some of these plays too.
Yeah,
and
they ran I form today for like a 10-yard game with Watt Doughton in the middle of the eye.
Right, look, the hamstring hampered him last year. I get where you're coming from, and look, we talked about the familiarity with him and Canada and Eddie Faulkner and all like that. So he was injured last year, that hamstring injury. He was an expensive special teams player, and need to get a little bit more out of him this year, and I think they will.
Mm-hmm. He had 1 snap today too. We were just talking about this yesterday as a true inline tight end with his hand down. So a little versatility. He'll play some wing. He'll play in the backfield, obviously. They'll do some empty stuff, I'm sure, and split him out occasionally in some 21, 12, 22 type personnel kind of things. So I mean, he'll wear different hats. So that's a good day for Derek Watt. Kalen Ballage. I thought about this more today, and obviously we don't know the exact nature of Snell's injury, but given his question mark on the injuries front right now and just the overall play of these guys. I mean, we'll have to see what preseason looks like, but I think you can make a pretty strong case Balaj is going to be ahead of Benny Snell. I think he's just overall a more powerful runner, better hands, a better receiver. I'd probably argue a slightly better special teams guy and a really strong
Balaj's better than Snell on special teams too. I mean, because Snell wasn't bad on special teams.
No, he's done well. Yeah, that's why I said slightly better. I think they're pretty comparable. I think Snell's done well to carve out a niche, and kudos to him for embracing that as you go from SEC stardom to running down kicks and punts. That's a big difference. But at least as a receiver and as a blocker, especially, I think Balaj. I mean, Harris, we'll see what he does, but I think Balaj might be the best pass blocker in terms of the running backs on this team right now.
Really?
I think he's done a really good job. He's got the size, and he's got the frame and the anchor and the strength and the technique, keeping his eyes up, staying square. So I think he's got that really strong backup value to be, even a guy that could get the occasional look on third down.
Is any of this possibly, and obviously Snell will have to be healthy come time, but I mean, is there any possibility that we're looking at maybe just 3 running backs plus Watt?
If they do that, the question is, who does that extra spot go to? At least on offense, I don't know who it would be. Would it be a 6th receiver? That doesn't look likely. A 10th offensive lineman? Maybe a Hassanau or someone like that. I mean, it's not going to be a 4th tight end. I guess you could flip it to the defense somewhere as well. But so I won't say there's a 0% chance of that happening, but I still think they're going to keep 4 to give themselves some extra depth there.
If you did keep, you wouldn't dress all 4 running backs, so more than likely, right? I mean,
did they do that last year?
Remember, McFarland was down a lot.
Yeah.
McFarland was down a lot.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it obviously would depend on injuries and just looking at the roster from a 30,000 foot view. So if everyone's healthy, probably not. But you still have that depth in case, because someone's going to get hurt at some point at the running back position.
Okay.
But interesting start for Balaj.
So you're leaning towards Balaj being more inside the bubble right now.
I am, and I think even potentially ahead of Snell right now.
All right.
Whatever that's worth.
Well, I think we both. I think I had Balaj on my last 53 as well too. So I don't think that's going to change. I'll have to look at whether or not. We'll have to see what happens with Benny Snell's health, though. See if that might end up being something that cost him a little time at the start of the season. We don't know.
Right. Tight end, the lines are just thin. They finished practice with 2 healthy tight ends today, then, with Kevin Rader and Marcus Baugh, with no Gentry, no Ebron, and Frymouth getting hurt. I thought Frymouth in the one-on-one coverage drill, which, again, is tailored to the offense, so context there is important, but a really crisp, nuanced route runner, had a really strong out and up little head fake to the outside to fool UG3 and then beat him vertically and had a really strong fingertip catch. So I thought he did well. His hands are excellent to do catches, pretty much everything. Obviously, we'll check the health of whatever he's dealing with, the shoulder, I suppose, but they're going to have to probably add somebody, especially if Frymouth cannot play, because Ebron's not going to play. I mean, Gentry, we'll see. Maybe he makes it back for Thursday. I don't know, but they're getting really thin there right now. Yeah,
well, I mean, if they do something, it'll obviously be tomorrow would be the move on the tight end. So that'll give us some insight into who might dress if there is a move or isn't a move. Boy, you sure would like to get Frymouth in there and get him some action. The same with Gentry, right? I mean,
especially it's more of a 4-3 type team like Dallas. At least I think they're still running 4-3. I'm not sure what they actually are, but something like that.
Right. So interesting there. We'll wait and see what Wednesday has in store for us for maybe a transaction.
And Kevin Rader's dropping passes again. He's making me look bad. I praised him. Now he can't.
Did it.
He's reading his own. He's reading his own press clippings, listening to the podcast, and getting a little full of himself. I'm sure of it.
Look, I mean that's who he kind of was. I can't remember really. In the film study way back, I don't remember the drops. I mean, I do remember the fantastic catch in the end zone, but I mostly remember when looking at film on him was his blocking, I think.
Gotcha.
I don't remember thinking, oh man, this guy drops a lot of balls. I don't think he was throwing a lot of balls, to be honest with you. Look, special teams and blocking is what's going to get him on the roster.
Yeah, a bit of news here for the Steelers. About 40 minutes ago, Steelers cornerback DeMarcus Azey tweeted out, "Unfortunately, tore my ACL today." So obviously he's going to go to injured reserve and he'll have to make a roster move there. So Steelers corner running third, fourth string outside guy made a play or two, but really feel bad for the guy.
Oh man, that's a shame too, and just days away from the preseason opener there too for him as well. You know, look, these things unfortunately happen, man. You know, you have the attrition during the off season, and gonna lose a couple of these guys. So that looks like we found one half of a tight end move, maybe that might come on Wednesday. So we wish him the best, and that's sad news.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you imagine he'll probably spend the entire season though on IR with the team, considering the severity of the injury, and the roster move should be coming tomorrow for Pittsburgh. So definitely feel for DeMarcus Lacey. All right, Dave, let's jump back here to the receiver group. Not maybe a ton of notes today. Anthony Johnson, pretty active. You wanted to talk about him. So what's on your mind with Anthony Johnson?
It's a guy we haven't talked a lot about that's been, spent some time, obviously, prior to this season with the Steelers, a kid out of Buffalo. Looks like you sound like he made a play or two. So let's talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, again, more reps, opportunities because McLeod was out. Johnson's been, I mean, again, they mix and match, but I would really consider Johnson to be third-team slot. So with McLeod not working, he was second-team slot and got a good run there in that 2-minute drill and caught several passes, including actually was first team because he caught it from Dwayne Haskins. And so, that was a good way to end his practice. And so, yeah, big guy, can play outside, inside, and don't think he's a great athlete, doesn't create a lot of separation, but I think he has a pretty solid pair of hands.
He's one of them 4.55 guys, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's not in 4.55 in the way that James Washington runs 4.55, where he stacks and gets vertical. He's more of a big slot, very much poor man's Juju type of receiver.
All right, so but I mean he's been around for a little bit, so he shouldn't. If he gets a little bit of burn in that game against the Cowboys, he's one of those guys that all right, you've been around, make some plays.
Yeah, absolutely. A guy that, I think can, have a decent showing on Thursday. Tyler Simmons, he kind of looks like a running back, and he kind of has hands like a running back too. I just see him drop too many, even in punt return line type of stuff. So there's some athleticism there and some size there, but I think the hands are average to below average with Tyler Simmons. Quick note on him.
The thing with him, and I contextualized his catches, if memory serves me, like 30-something catches, I think. I forget how many exactly were, but there wasn't a lot that stood out to me. A lot of out routes with him, That's mostly what I saw on his tape there. Now, he has been praised for some of his special teams contributions. So if he's going to make an impact, anything above special teams sure would help his cause a little bit, especially when it comes to maybe potential to land in a practice squad spot, because quite obviously right now as things look, as we sit here today, barring injury, the 5 are going to be the 5 again. So it's hard to imagine anybody else, any other wide receiver making this roster unless injury happens. But, injuries do happen.
Yeah, absolutely. You never know what's going to happen. So that's about it for the receivers today, unless I'm missing something, but that's probably the bulk of it. Offensive line, really interested to see in how Dan Moore handles speed rushes. Highsmith got him once or twice, at least in team today. I thought Moore did okay in some of the O-line, D-line sessions, but how he handles some of those outside speed rushes will be something I'll be paying attention to very closely this preseason. And
this is going to be your starting left tackle Thursday night, right?
Yes, absolutely. And he's going to play a lot, probably at least a half.
All right, so he's definitely going to be one. Ben Roethlisberger was on. Was it Roethlisberger or that said it? One of them, Sirius XM Radio, obviously. Pat Kerwin and Jim Miller did their annual trek to Steelers training camp. Slew of interviews that we're going to be covering on Steelers Depot here over. They've already started to run into the next couple of days here. But I think it was Roethlisberger that said Dotson and Green need to start getting some time together, and you could go ahead and take that a step further and probably say, Corfor and Dotson and Green and Turner and Banner need to start getting some time together as well too here. But it doesn't sound like we're going to see Dotson right Thursday night. Right. We'll probably see Rashard Coward at left guard. So tell us what you're expecting the starting offensive line to look left to right against Dallas. And then the second team.
Yeah, first team probably is going to be Dan Moore. I mean, definitely going to be Dan Moore left tackle, Rashad Coward left guard, Kendrick Green at center. I think those three are pretty much locks. And then from there, I think Trey Turner, I think he might at least start at right guard. And then at right tackle, my guess is Banner doesn't play, so it'll be Joe Haig at right tackle. If Turner doesn't start at right guard, then it'll be either B.J. Finney or John LeGlue will be I think, next man up there.
Stop.
Be nice to John LeGlue. He's doing his best.
Oh, man.
Coward has struggled, too. I know he's facing Hayward sometimes, but even against non-Hayward matchups, I mean, he's a developmental guy who very much looks like a developmental guy. So he's going to play a lot. I don't think any Steeler has gotten more reps than Rashad Coward because of the injuries up front, and he's been healthy and available. But this is a guy that I think is going to have some ugly moments occasionally in preseason action.
Converted defensive lineman, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
If there's anything, he's got that big build to him. He's got that classic Steelers left guard big build to him. But tape, at least what I watched on him, looks every bit like a defensive lineman trying to be converted into an offensive lineman, right?
And when he faces an All-Pro like Cam Hayward, it doesn't turn out too well for Rashad Coward. So I mean, again, we'll see how better this group gets. But if there's one position you kind of want to maybe think about, maybe they add someone waiver wire, could be guard, because I don't know if those backups are ready to step into serious action. Even Finney, I mean, his ceiling's pretty capped.
I know they're not pulling Trey Turner much of any in practices. In fact, I'd be surprised if they pulled him once so far. Are they pulling any guards? You see any guards on the move?
I saw it more today, actually. Coward pulled once or twice. Turner has pulled. Sometimes it's play action, but he has pulled. But we'll be tracking that better in the game than I probably can during practice.
All right.
That wraps up the offense. Let's flip over to defense here. D-line, not a whole lot tonight. I tried to watch more of Isaiah Loudermilk today, and I think he's obviously has the size, he has the strength. What I want to see from Loudermilk is him being able to finish the play, be able to disengage and shed block. I see him where he's won the point of attack. He has the leverage. He's in the pads of the offensive lineman today was Brandon Walton, but he just can't shed and just can't disengage. And I've seen Hayward and other guys work with him on that. So being able to finish the play and get off the block, I think, will be the thing I'm really honing in on with Isaiah Loudermilk.
All right. Now, I remember the thing that stuck out to me the most with him was that push-pull technique. But even then, I think there's some instances that match what you just said. He gets that push-pull going, but he can't disengage from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, today he tried the club. I think it was a club with his outside hand and just couldn't get through the block. So, again, he'll hold the point of attack. He's strong, which has value for sure. But today's NFL as a pass rusher, getting up blocks, making tackles, you want to take that extra step. So that'll be the finish is going to be the most important thing with his game.
All right. Carlos Davis make any splash?
I saw one good rep in O-line, D-line. I think it was against maybe Green. I'll have to go back and check some of my notes on that. But I still think Buggs will be, I guess, the starting nose tackle in this game.
Wow.
So obviously, Alualu's not going to play. I mean, we'll see, but Buggs has continued to run ahead of Davis. I mean, they'll both play, I think, quite a bit, maybe first half, second half kind of a thing. But as we see there today, I mean, depending on if Wormley plays, it should be Wormley, Buggs, and Mondo or Loudermilk. I don't know how it's going to go. I think it could go a couple different ways.
All right. You get to chart defense too, don't you?
I do. I'm excited.
Are you terrified. Yeah. Preseason's so much harder, because you don't have the all 22 to work with, and who knows if we'll even have game rewind period for the preseason games. We'll see.
And then a preseason camera crew, sometimes not always the best at focusing in on the action. So
they get the sideline. They don't miss the sideline interviews, though, do they?
They don't. Yeah, we'll get like the small little box, and I got to squint to see.
I've had to make GIFs out of those where you take them and you crop it and make it look like it's a full screen shot out of those little tiny things before it aggravates the stew out of me. Yeah. Carry on.
Never understood the double box with the game being the small box of the two. Anyway, linebackers here. Good day for Cassius Marsh. Saw him with repeated pressure. Beat LeGlue once or twice, and so good day for him. Marcus Allen back in pads, by the way. He was active in run session. He was all over my notes today, so he's probably doing something right. Robert Spillane, I don't know what it was, probably nothing, but he just looked slow in some of the one-on-one coverage drills. I mean, everybody was burning him, even Jalen Samuels, I think, on one rep. So Spillane, I mean, he's not, obviously Devin Bush, but he's been faster than what he looked today.
Let me ask you this. Alex Highsmith was on Sirius, and he talked about working on his get off this offseason and all, and specifically 3-point stuff. Have you seen him do maybe more 3-point stuff?
Talking about Highsmith and his get off?
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen it in team, though I haven't been looking at it in particular, but in O-line, D-line, almost all of his snaps are with his hand down. So I have seen that more than what he did last season, because he did it. Did he do it a lot last year, actually?
I don't. It doesn't seem like he did, though, does it?
I don't think so. I think you're right. I'll have to check the numbers. We have that charted. Watt does it a ton. Watt does it like 75% of the time. I think Highsmith probably didn't do it a lot last year. And he's been doing it a lot, though, in O-line, D-line, I can tell you that.
All right, because he and look for that interview for us to recap that coming up on the site as well, too, because he talked a little bit about how he really focused on his get-off during the offseason, and specifically using more 3-point stance, I think he said.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, if he's learning from Watt and Watt didn't do that early in his career, and so I think it's something he's learned and has picked up on. So Highsmith, I'm sure, is learning from that as well. Defensive back here, Justin Lane. I know we were very critical of Justin Lane early on in camp, and James Pierre still making plays, still having the better camp, had a pick on 7-on-7 today. But Lane has had, I think by my count, 4 breakups over the last 3 practices, including 2 today, 1 in 7 shots, 1 in 2 minutes. So Justin Lane not going away quietly here. He's still battling. Maybe
Grady's been able to work with him a little bit here.
Yeah, I think some of it's also just ebb and flow. I mean, corners get beat sometimes, and that's just nature of the position. So there's ups, there's downs, but Lane being mentally tough and sticking it out.
Look, he's one of those guys we've talked about, and look, you can't switch an opinion just off of one practice and a couple of breakups, but you definitely would like to. He needs a good preseason. He hasn't strung together any, as far as tape goes, as far as I'm concerned, hasn't strung together really anything worth talking about on tape, period, since he's been drafted.
I agree, but I know we were critical of him, so I think it's just right to point out.
Sure. Look, we just got through butchering the guy a couple. So yeah, I mean, it's great to look. You want, especially these draft picks, to come through, But I mean, this is what, year 3 for him, right? So
yeah, this is make or break for Justin Lane.
This is it's got to show. It's got to start showing.
Shakur Brown had, I believe, a forced fumble today, at least the recovery of it, and had a tackle in a non-tackling session, but a good takedown of Matthew Sexton. So
a tackle in a non-tackling session, right?
But he's physical, he's aggressive, he loves to throw the body, and that's kind of what got him to Pittsburgh, and he's showing that. And Trey Norwood, I thought, had a couple good sticks today as well. So him being a smaller guy, not super physical, worried about the lack of tackles on his Oklahoma stat sheet. I like the way that he's attacking the football downhill.
All right. Anything else? Slot battle and all? Anything new there developing?
I think Millette was the starter today, I want to say, but nothing super notable there. Millette had a good tackle on a screen, kind of ran under, I think, ran away from a Collins block out in space and made the play. But that'll be a continuing, evolving battle between those 2 guys. For the specialists here, quick notes, they did punt today. I thought Presley Harvin, I thought the first time they punted the other day, Barry slightly edged out Harvin. I thought this time Harvin was much better overall than Jordan Berry. The averages here, because we do track the hang times and the distances. Berry's
average. That's too much info. Go ahead.
It probably actually is too much information. 4.34 seconds for Berry and 48.3 yards for Harvin. 4.66 seconds and 51.9 yards. So Harvin, clear winner in hang time and distance and consistency. He did have one punt that wasn't great, a 35-yarder at 4.25 seconds, but had a 4.88 at 60, and I hope I got this one right, but a 5.09 at 56 yards. So even if I'm off a little bit on that one, it's still an elite level punt. Again, there is no rush, no fear of a block, but good stuff from Harvin.
And you've been out there enough over the years to see a couple of punters and some hang times. Do you get a sense when it comes off of his leg? The good ones?
In the sense of the hang time or the distance or both?
Just can you tell when he gets into one?
I can tell, maybe not off the foot. I don't have the ear for it, but just when I see the apex, the arc of it, and how high it is in the air, and the distance it's going to travel, you can kind of tell. So usually once it gets up about halfway, then you can kind of tell it's going to be a really good punt or not.
All right. Mike Tomlin would not commit, as far as which punter is going to do what, but they know who Barry is. Just let Harvin punt and hold that entire game. Get him some work against the Cowboys. That would be my suggestion, but we'll see.
And odds are there will be plenty of punting in this first preseason game.
Yeah.
Safe bet.
You're taking the under, huh?
Take the under. Take the over on punts. Take the under on everything else.
On points, all right.
On points and everything else. So, yeah, that'll conclude today. So, no practice until Saturday. Then they go 4 in a row. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So, coming off a game, be a very busy time for them and a very busy time for us.
All right, let's lay this out. Regular edition of the Terrible Podcast on Wednesday, where we'll talk about the press conference, what Mike Tomlin had to say on Tuesday there, start getting you ready more for the preseason game. Obviously, Thursday is the game, and then Alex and I will be back with a regular edition again on Friday morning to recap the game. Boy, that ought to be a fun episode, Alex. And then then you'll be back out at training camp on what, Saturday, right?
Yeah. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So it's going to be nonstop action starting on Thursday.
All
and then
right.
the Hall of Fame ceremony is this weekend
absolutely.
too.
Boy, what? It's a great. Stay alive, all right, people. Stay alive. Keep breathing. We're all don't make it through this weekend for us. All right. Thanks, Lynn Testa and the people at Touring Plans once again. You can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, terriblepodcast@gmail.com. Until the morning time, as always, thanks for listening to this special edition of the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.